What is up, all you real estate loving individuals? This is episode number 3. That is right, number 3 of the Real Estate Take podcast with your host, Wendell Butler, myself. This is your go-to podcast with tons of information regarding the current real estate market, where we get various real estate professionals' current take on different areas of real estate. For today's guest, we have Evans Wright. Evans Wright is a military veteran and currently resides in Waxhaw, North Carolina, which is right outside of Charlotte. He previously served 12 years active duty in the U.S. Air Force as a nuclear missile operator. We'll have to get a little bit into that. And has been involved in real estate since 2015. He started out with house hacking multifamily properties while adding value and raising rents, which allowed him to scale quickly to owning 13 doors. During the pandemic, he sold his fourplex, did a 1031 exchange with a duplex, and currently owns 9 doors. His passion for financial independence through real estate investing led him to become a full-time agent so he can help others, whether it be with investment properties or finding their next home in Charlotte and the surrounding areas. So let's introduce Evans Wright. Evans, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Wendell. What's up? Let's go.
Let's go. I mean, your background is just awesome. I mean, I love to hear about like veterans getting into real estate and stuff. As a veteran myself, it's just really cool to see you take kind of the expertise of being a military veteran and then using that professionalism to join into being a realtor and within real estate as a whole. Can you talk a little bit about your time in like the military and how you kind of got into real estate? Like, what's your backstory and what really involved it? Were you always thinking about real estate, or were you thinking about long-term career in the military, and what kind of changed that up for you?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So it from the beginning, I always thought more of like a career time military type person. I started off in about 2010 going through training, and then went up to Maelstrom in Montana, and I was doing nuclear missile operations there. So during that time, you loved what I was doing, but came across some challenges that kind of forced me to like take a different perspective about how I felt with the military and where I wanted to go with it and where I saw myself going. And that kind of led me to just the notion that like, hey, not everything is going to be guaranteed in life. And I want to make sure that I can just at least be able to have some sort of backup if worst case this doesn't work out, because we in the military, as you could probably remember, you become comfortable wearing the same uniform, doing the same things. Then you think, hey, it's probably one of the most secure jobs in America and I'm good here. And I don't, as long as I keep doing this and don't mess up severely, then I'll get to 20 years or I'll get to that pension and life will be good. And sometimes that's not the case for everyone. So I started having to think about, all right, what is life for me outside of the military? And then it led to starting to learn about real estate investing. I've mentioned this before, but Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I read that book and it was a phenomenal book and got my wheels turning and kind of got the curiosity going. And from there, I took about a year to learn as much as I could about real estate investing, whether it be reading books or joining investor forums or even going to just meet up with people who did it. And that was the biggest thing, is surrounding yourself with people who were doing that type of stuff and just talking to them and getting to learn from them. And that kind of inspired my passion. And I started realizing like, hey, this stuff is really, really powerful and I really want to get into it. So by the time I kind of achieved my goal of paying off some debt and learned about as much of what I thought I could with real estate at the time, then I was like, all right, I'm gonna get after it. And then I started setting up meetings with realtors and lenders and analyzing properties. And then it took me just a very short time by the time I started meeting with people to go ahead and get under contract for a property. The big thing I learned there is you're never gonna have all the answers. So at some point you just got to go do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you were doing that while you were still serving in the military, right? Like active duty. So did you have any like mentors or anybody that kind of guided you, or were you just kind of dedicated to learn yourself, reading books, and just taking a stab at it?
Right. It was more in the beginning, definitely self-taught and self-learning. And and just hopping on those forums and engaging with people. I have no problem trying to talk to people.
Mhm.
Once I did start the process of actually like working with a realtor and a lender, then I kind of leaned on them to give me the, be those mentors. So yeah, they were still providing a service, but I made sure to engage with people who were real estate investing so that they can kind of mentor me through the process and open up my eyes to the possibilities that I didn't originally know were there, or at least help take a different perspective that I wasn't thinking about. So that was kind of a very pivotal point for me as well, because had I felt like if I just gone to any realtor or professional and said, hey, this is what I'm trying to do, and they're like, got it, all right, just come to us when you got your loan or you got this stuff, and then that things might have not happened the way they would have if you engaged with someone who's actually doing it and understands it and can help kind of coach you through it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's pretty cool because like one of the biggest fears of people is really just hopping right into real estate because they think there's a lot of risk with it. There's a lot of factors with it. Could you tell us a little bit about like your first property that you got into with your first investment, and what were the risks of it? Like what were you thinking about based on risk, based on the numbers, and based on just your first investment? Like what was going through your mind?
Right. So from the beginning, I kind of like determined, hey, what criteria is important to me? And those kind of things were, hey, the property needed to cash flow. And also I kind of looked at cap rate. The realtor that I was working with at the time, he said, hey, the average cap rate for this area is 6 to 8%. And so basically for me, as I understood it at the time, was anything over 6% was a good deal or an average deal. And then anything over 8% could be a great deal. I learned a lot more about cap rate as time goes on, that sometimes higher cap rate doesn't mean it's always the best thing. Like you'll make more money, but then with that comes more risk. So the first property I found was a fourplex, and it was a 9% cap rate on that property. So I was like, this is sweet from what I understood at the time. Yeah, I'm good with this. And like I said, from the minute I started meeting with a realtor to we put an offer on that like it came out, and then I put an offer on it the day after it came out on the market. That was like 3 weeks. And then the next day I found out I was under contract. So it was, for me, it's always about trying to keep it as simple as possible. So I had my calculator that I was using to analyze the property. And as long as it met those metrics, then I was perfectly fine with, hey, I can move into this, value add to it, fix up the unit I was living in, and then also fix up the other units, and then raise the rents, and then move out, and then repeat the process. So with that came its own risk, because it was, hey, I'm moving into this, and this is my first time, and I don't know all the answers I don't even know how to like do all this work by myself, but I was willing to learn. And part of that process that I did learn was, okay, yes, I can do certain things. I was pretty good with my hands, but I realized that also I can do things if I can focus on other tasks like buying real estate versus just trying to hang up some drywall or reframe or do these kind of things, and let other people who can do that process faster than me, then it was worth it, because, hey, we can get this fixed quicker. You can do that, handle that process, and I can focus on my passion more, which was trying to build my real estate portfolio.
Yeah, and like so there's different type of people in real estate for sure. There's ones that like to get their hands dirty and really like to like do everything to themselves,
Yeah.
and there's other people that actually love the whole deal process and don't really want to do that. But what I realized from myself doing it, and I'm sure you did too, from like doing some repairs yourself, is you learn a lot about the process to do that, and then it also helps you figure out like what is a necessity to fix, how much something really is, how much work goes into something. So when you do talk to contractors later, you can know if they're really trying to take a lot of money from you for no reason, or if like the jobs line up correctly with the pricing. And they also learn what you can maybe do yourself really quickly, and also what you hate doing a lot.
Gives you a little skin in the game and get your hands dirty, and especially just to be able to say, hey, yes, I did this. But I think the quicker you can realize that, like, it's not about what you can get done, it's how can you employ other people and lead them and get the task done itself for that, then that will allow you to continue to grow going into the future. Is who else can do this? Not I have to do everything. And it's harder said than done, but it's definitely a thing.
Yeah, and that's also a good way that people sometimes burn out, is trying to do everything themselves. Time is money, and peace of mind is money too. Like if you're doing too much at once, then you might end up failing because you're wearing too many hats. You can't wear too many hats, or it just falls apart. So you're in the military at this point.
Right.
What state are you in?
I'm in Montana at this time.
So you're in Montana. You bought this property. Was it far away from base, or was it close to base?
It was about 10 minutes away from base.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was a fourplex, and so my strategy was to go in and move into the basement unit, and then I lived in that and renovated it. But I also then immediately hired a property management company, because that was one thing I determined from the get-go is I don't want to manage the property, and I'll let other people who are way more capable of it do it, because it's hard when you got a full-time job and then you're also trying to renovate, but then you try to throw in their property management. So even though I was living in the property, I already recognized from the beginning, I was like, property management is the one thing I'm happy to learn about it, but I got to outsource that as quickly as possible. And it was great because there were some problem tenants in there. And so they were the ones who were able to go in, get them out, and then focus on raising rents while I focused on renovating the properties or the apartments.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you totally. Once you buy your first property, you find out really quick if you want to be the property manager. You don't. It's pretty quick. And I came in the same situation. I can be a property manager for like the stabilization period, but after that, I do not want to property manage at all. I just want to be part of the process. And once it's set in stone, I have other things to do. Like you got to find deals, you got to work your normal job. You have a lot on your plate, and adding that property management on top of the tenants sometimes reaching out for just silly things, it just adds a lot of stress to the table. And you're like, I don't know if this is worth the extra 8% that I'm getting or whatever,
Right.
And a lot of people think that that's a lot of money, but if you compare how much money that is compared to being a lot less stressed, I would take the less stress every single time.
One thing I think that you'll learn over time is as you kind of alluded to, was the time value of money. And 8 to 10% sure can help you get a little bit extra money at the end of the month, but how much time does that take away from you? You have a family, or even you're single and you're just trying to enjoy your life and go out and do things. But it's like, nope, I got to worry about going and fixing a toilet or doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Leave that to professionals.
Yeah, no, thank you. Cool. But all right, so we're in the fourplex. You renovated the basement. And did you renovate the other units too? You had other people renovate it, or at the same time, or were you doing every single unit and flipping each one, or?
So I started off the renovations doing myself. I especially did the demo, and then I handled some of the renovations, but I also brought in contractors to help me with other things. So once I got to like points of like hanging up drywall or like installing new flooring or those type of things, those technical processes that like you can do, but if you want it done right, I started hiring those people out. But if I needed to replace a floor heating unit or some lighting fixtures or fixtures in the bathroom and different smaller stuff, then I was doing that, or even installing doors, or even like a little bit of kitchen modification. I wanted to do some of that just to say, like, get the experience as well, but also I brought in contractors with me. And I thought there was a good thing to that, because they didn't just come in and just go do their work and they're like, okay, someone's paying us. Like, I was there working with them, just kind of doing my own thing and still working towards the overall project. But while they were there, I was there, and I could ask them questions and learn from them as well and see what they were doing and pick up those techniques. So that was super helpful for me, just to be able to take as something. And I think it even helped with more of a like respect thing as well for later projects when I picked up more properties, because they say, hey, this guy's serious. He's so serious that he's in here doing the work himself. And I'll be happy to help him out with the rest of the projects. And they made themselves available to do things for me, and it was really awesome.
That is awesome. And you touched on something really great there too. As a beginner investor, even if you have been investing for a while, if you haven't took the chance to like go in with your contractors and actually see what they're doing, ask them questions and see exactly how they're, building something, how they're fixing something, why they're doing it, it's free education. And the more that you know about that, the more that you can,
Right.
Almost do preventative maintenance is what I would say. So you can go into places and be like, oh, that needs to be fixed because this is going to happen. And I learned this from this contractor when I was renovating this other property, and it really helps. So just build your knowledge. And that's something that I did as well. And that's awesome that you did that too. Because it's free education. Anytime you get free education,
right,
just keep doing it. Be a sponge. That's what they say, right?
We see a lot of people, I think it's great too when people are like, they reach out to another real estate investor and they're like, hey, teach me what you know, mentor me and stuff. And that's good too. But also, like, if you can't get that and you're trying to figure out, well, how can I provide value to the people, people who are places that I want to be, then start meeting with those contractors or those property managers and just taking them out and, for a quick little lunch or coffee date and chatting with them and getting their expertise. Because in the end, that's going to help you bring in some sort of more holistic picture if you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're finished renovating this quadplex. Yeah, it's quadplex. That's what it is.
Depending on where you are in the country.
Or four family is what we call it in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Little four family. I'm down in Charlotte now though. So what do we call it here? We call it
quadplex.
So I'm gonna start saying quadplex. So you finished renovating that, and did you buy that with a FHA loan or like a VA loan or something like that?
Correct. So I used FHA.
Okay.
Part of my strategy was I've been investing in stock market prior to investing in multifamily, and I realized like, okay, my money's kind of sitting here, not making that much return. So why don't I just pull it out and then use that as a low money down payment? So for the first property, it was $196,000 sale price, and so with the FHA loan and also the idea that I was moving in there myself, I only needed to bring 3.5% of that to the table. So I pulled that out of the stock market and then use that as a down payment. And so for me, it was, okay, I can take this opportunity to turn something that's, we'll say maybe 10, 15K and turn it into a $200,000 asset that's producing money for me and giving me all the other benefits involved with real estate was kind of the perspective I took with it.
Yeah, exactly. The opportunity to leverage such little money and then leverage such a big asset that's going to appreciate and make you possible cash flow. It's going to pay down your mortgage. It's just an opportunity in real estate that a lot of other investments don't give you, which is great, especially those first initial properties that you try to invest in and try to house hack, live in one property, rent out the others. You can use those government loans that allow you to put down those, very low down payments, which is awesome. So you used your FHA loan there. And then did you go repeat the process again? Did you move out and then do another multifamily, or what was your next step after that?
Yep. Next step was then I went to a duplex and I moved into that unit. And so for this one, I still had capital. And so I used a conventional loan, 5% down to get this property. And I know a lot of people in the military, they're like, hey, you have that VA loan. Like, why aren't you using that? And so my perspective with that was I kind of wanted to keep it in my back pocket as like the used in case of emergency was my perspective, because I was like, wait, there's an opportunity to use this loan with zero money down and the benefits that come with it. So why do I feel the need? If I have the money, I shouldn't feel the need to use it immediately. And let's just save it for a rainy day. And then that rainy day came shortly there after I bought the duplex, like about a year after that. Then my realtor, who I've been using to buy this property, he hits me up and he's like, hey, there's a fourplex down the block from you about to go on market. You want to check it out? Would you be interested? And I'm like, oh yeah, like a fourplex would be awesome, but I have no money. And then I was like, well, wait a second. What I do have is this VA loan.
Boom.
And that's how it worked out perfectly to where I was able to get my second fourplex.
That's freaking awesome. So So let's go back to the duplex. So you got a duplex with 5% down. Was it a special loan or anything? Do you remember? Or was it maybe in that just during that time they were still doing 5% down with duplexes?
Yeah, yeah. As long as you owner occupied it, it was just a minimum 5% down.
Yeah.
You have
So
HMI to pay, but that's about it.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't conventional. They don't do those anymore, unfortunately.
They don't.
No,
When did that change?
I know they pumped it up to 15%. So FHA is the only one. And there's some special conventional loans. So there's special government type loans that are similar to FHA that you can do. But
Mhm.
I love hearing like back in the day when people were using like conventional 5% down, and I'm like, why wasn't I investing back then?
We're gonna
Because
ask ourselves a lot lately.
I know there's like new rules coming. They're making it harder for a lot of stuff. Fannie and Freddie Mac today. I think I just saw something pop up that said they're trying to make the seasoning period for cash out refinance 12 months now instead of 6.
Next,
So they're just making it harder to invest.
that for sure, or are they going to
I just saw,
talking about it?
yeah, I just saw like a post about it. I don't know if it's really true, but I mean, I wouldn't doubt it because
Mhm.
they just keep making it harder. Because now, like multifamilies, if you go pure conventional, duplex is 15 if you live there, and then 3 and 4 families 25% if you live there, and then if you don't live there in the duplex, it's 25%. So that's why those government loans are great. So you used a VA loan, 0% down to get this 4 family. How did that feel?
It felt great because I was, I was just walk up, and it was crazy because wasn't even on market yet, and I got to see it. And actually, there was another person who had found out about it as well, and I think they had a higher offering than me, but because at the time the sellers found out I was in the military, and the husband I believe was in the military, they ended up taking my offer, which was like 5 grand less, just because I was in the military. So sometimes just giving that little bit of information about
Yeah.
your buyers and to the sellers can be a determining factor. You never know. I mean, that we weren't seeing that for the past couple years, but
Mhm.
depending on what we go into in the future, those little things might give you the advantage.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think the market is kind of coming back into you have better chances for like I don't know. I wouldn't call that negotiating, but I'd call that just a little more personable ability. I think that's a good word that you might have just made up, but a little personal
It's an
action,
actual word.
personal ability uh, into into your offers and stuff, which can help you secure deals. Um, so, bam, you have all of a sudden 10 units there, and then do you go do like just the next step of buying another fourplex or something after that, or
So after that, then I ended up getting orders to move to Nebraska, and that's where I ended up picking up a single family home.
okay,
But by then, kind of that's one of the biggest things that you learn as becoming a real estate investor is how your mindset shifts.
yep,
And so it's going from I can do everything, I can do, this, and this, and I'm trying to make money to, hey, I have people who are helping me achieve the vision that I want to achieve, and that's great. And then I also have tenants who are working towards paying towards the lifestyle that I want to live. And sometimes that might sound a little hard for people to swallow, but that's capitalism for you is you have a product and you offer it to people, and then and then how you choose to use that is up to you.
exactly. And people do give some landlords a bad rap, but I think it's because of the bad landlords out there that don't treat their properties good. They don't treat the tenants good. Um, but there's a lot of hardworking people out there that are just investing within properties and giving people good places to live. A lot of tenants don't want to buy a property. They don't want to have the hassle of, you know, a big repair coming up and they have to pay out of pocket for that. They just want to have a place they can come home, sleep, that's nice, well maintained. They can reach out to their landlord or property manager for problems. People like that. And I mean, just because you might not think everybody should think like that, uh, that's not the way that everybody thinks. And the great thing about real estate is it's a people business. So you buy properties, and as long as you morally keep the properties good, treat the tenants right, it's awesome, and it's fulfilling too because you can go into a property that's not doing well at all, which I'm sure
Mhm.
like you were talking about your first fourplex, quadplex. You go in there, that's the property's not doing well at all, right? And you go in there, you renovate it, you bring life back to the property, and then you give just a great place for the next person to live, and then you treat them really well, and it's just you're almost helping build the community, because you're
Right.
helping people get good housing, and you're helping build the houses and making it a better place for people to live.
Yeah, I think the one thing that stuck with me the most was even just seeing that there was a mother and a daughter. The daughter was looking for a place, and the mother was there to help them. They
Mhm.
came over from, I believe, Washington, and they came to my place, and the daughter ends up settling on renting out the one bedroom that I had to offer in the fourplex, and I would happen to be working there at the time, and the mother was like, "Whoa, you own this place?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and she was like, well, this was the nicest place that we got to see over here. So and
Wow.
she's like, you did a great job with all this. And I was like, wow, like just to hear that from the mom
Mhm.
being there was something that always like was ingrained with me. And like that feeling alone was something to kind of hold on to. Like, all right, you're actually doing something right because you're going in, like, yes, your goal is to build wealth and build a portfolio for yourself, but you're putting that money back into giving a product that people can be happy with. And to hear that from the mom and the daughter was something that was pretty impactful to me.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime you get like feedback back from tenants or people that look at your properties, and it's like, this is awesome. Like, thank you so much. Like, even like happy holidays, Merry Christmas, we're thankful for everything that you've done with the place.
Mhm.
It just makes you feel really good, like that you're doing just a great thing, rather than say you invest in the stock market, you're just putting money in there. You're not really helping anybody. You're just kind of you're hoping that it's helping yourself. You're hoping that the business does the right stuff with your money. But you put it in real estate, and you can build, uh, give back to the community, and in turn make money as well. It's amazing. So you're out in Nebraska, and then what brought you to the east? What brought you to Charlotte? Like, so
So
how long were you in Nebraska, and then kind of quickly dive through what happened there, and then what brought you over to Charlotte? How'd you make that big swing?
right. So I was in Nebraska for a few years, and then I got orders to move to Louisiana. And at that point, I was with my at that time my girlfriend, and we were trying to figure out a place to live. And then I just had some circumstances, an epiphany happened in the military, if one would call it that. And at that point, I decided it's time for me to move on from the military.
Mhm.
Uh, and, and then since we were focusing on where we wanted to live, took a trip to Charlotte and ended up saying, "Hey, this is the place we want to be." And so I made a decision like, okay, I'm stepping away from the military and we're moving to Charlotte together and we're going to begin a new life there. And it was like, all right, cool. Let's figure out how to make this happen. And then a part of that then was all right, I need to think about what my career and my life looks like outside of the military. Been investing for we'll say 6 or 7 years at that point. And so I
Mhm.
know I wanted to do real estate investing full time. I was very passionate about that. And then I recognized also that a lot of other people want to do this and they want to build wealth, but there's a gap. And that gap being is, hey, I know there's information out there and there's ways to build wealth, and this real estate stuff sounds really cool. And here are all the people doing it, but I can't get from here to here. So who's going to help me? And I thought, well, all right, there's an opportunity for me to kind of help fill that gap because I have experience in investing in real estate.
Mhm.
And how I wanted to fill that and help other people build wealth was then help educate, but also be able to help them buy that property or sell it. And so I became a real estate agent as well to kind of help bridge that gap. It's like, hey, I can kind of bring you from here to over here with my credentials and my experience.
Yeah, and that's awesome. So your niche as a realtor is mainly focused on just investing, right?
Correct.
Is it pure investing, or do you like to have a niche within investing? So do you like to look at like house hacks, or like midterm or short term, or do you kind of just do a whole whatever the person's interested in? You kind of have a little bit of expertise on everything, and then you dive deeper into it for them. You try to just figure out the best deal for them. Is that
Right.
kind of your plans?
Yeah, I would say like currently I definitely more focus with the short term, midterm, and long term rental type deals.
Hmm.
That's I wouldn't it's a focus, but that's the majority of people I'm dealing and trying to help right now. but I also do other types of investment. And then there's still, hey, if you want to just relocate or you want to buy a new home or sell a new home, I can do that as well. But I find the greatest part of what I can offer that separates me from the majority of the pool is that investing experience, and that's where I focus in. So it's a little bit general, doing a little bit more commercial now too, to be able to help with take on those bigger projects for people as well.
Yeah, and commercial is exciting because it's all very similar. Even the smaller multifamilies, if a commercial is just a bigger version of that. So it's very similar, but you do get into like more numbers based stuff, which is fun. The financials and the numbers and figuring out how much properties are worth based on their NOI and the cap rate. That's where it gets really fun and interesting. And as a loan officer, I'm kind of a little financial numbers nerd. I like to get into it and like to do all the data calculating. So that's what gets me excited.
A little bit less emotional, which is nice because
yeah.
Here's what I can do based on the numbers. All right, well, let's go see what we can do.
Yeah, it's totally business, like business to business. If the numbers don't work, you're like, okay, numbers don't work. But if they work, you're like, nice. Instead of being like, I really like this. Nothing against this, because this is how pretty much everybody looks when they look for their home to live in. But they'll be like, I don't know about this kitchen. I don't know about this bathroom. I don't know. It's like more emotional, and it's like and if you really love a place, you might overspend on it. Like, props to those realtors that really focus on that stuff, because it is hard. It's kind of like being like a part-time therapist in some ways.
I actually had that conversation with someone. We're like, yeah, you're just a part-time therapist. It's weird. So.
Yeah, it's like part-time therapist, and then you're more like a investment consultant, because you're kind of giving your ideas and your expertise on stuff, which is really cool.
My title. Just consultant.
Yeah, just start putting that on your business cards. I'm a consultant, investment consultant. So so you're a realtor now. How long have you been a realtor?
So I started back this year in 2022.
Awesome. And
probably around the worst time as the market started shifting and things started to topple over because the interest rates were raised up so high. So yeah, starting at the most challenging, but there's going to be a lot of opportunities and things to learn and kind of focus on building my expertise as a real estate agent.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, sometimes joining the most difficult part of like a market, actually you learn the most and become the best, because if you can make it through this type of market, it's a very hard market. It's one of the hardest markets since 2008. And 2008 was a super hard market when that crash occurred. Like rates are up, inventory, more about inventory, but it's pretty stagnant, right? It's like not really going up or down. It's just,
yeah, we've kind of like gotten to a plateau. Like if you look on Zillow, for instance, in our market, in Charlotte market, you'll just see the total number hovering at like 2,100 ish and going up or down plus or minus 20 ish or somewhere around there. But it's been hovering around there for the past few months, and it's interesting because we've went to, hey, buyers are scared and recession looms and interest rates have kind of put them at a halt. Well, now you also have the other side where sellers were like, all right, I need to get rid of my property because I don't want to miss the bandwagon. But then they also start looking at the other side of that where it's like, hey, I actually don't want to, like, I don't want to even want to leave because I'm going to be paying a higher interest rate depending on where I go and stuff. So it's kind of just kept inventory like plateauing, but it's also created a unique thing, especially for our areas in North Carolina, where so much of the media says recession, home price corrections, and the sky is falling and crashing. Home prices are going to crash, and it's not like that here because the inventory remains low.
Yeah.
So there's still demand, and there's low supply, and that creates those macro factors. And people are migrating to the area. I had an article up there from Axios where North Carolina was like the number 3 state for where people are migrating to, behind Texas and I believe Florida.
Yeah. I mean, the Sun Belt states, everybody from where I came from want to move there because they're sick of the cold, and there's a lot of things going on in the north that isn't as appealing as down here. It's getting very expensive, and there's a lot of different like rules coming in, like tax rules and stuff like that, and they're just not really enjoying those movements. So a lot of people do decide to just move, like myself. And thankfully, Evans was actually the one that helped me.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler. And it's funny because, yes, I was looking for a investment-minded agent, and I found him on Bigger Pockets, and he ended up being perfect. So actually, to speak upon that, I don't know if I was your most recent deal, but I do want to dive into like the most recent deal that you did help. If I was it, then we could talk about it. But if there was another one that was cool too, we could talk about that one. But let's break it down a little bit and what you found with the property and how it turned out and what you did to help that client, even if it was me.
Yeah. So there is you, but I kind of wanted to take this opportunity to also highlight on a failure or something that didn't work, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Because as we're going into a challenging market, people are going to think, hey, everything's as simple as it is. You write the offer, you get it accepted, and then you move on, close the deal. And we're facing a lot more headwinds these days, so things are going to be challenging. So I kind of want to just talk about just something that didn't work out, or we're continuing to work, and then dive into the success story. So with respects to the thing that didn't work out, is I was able to find an off-market 12-plex, and then I found that property, did some little analysis. I went to go see it. It's cash flowing as it is. They're asking a higher price. It was around like 2.2 million. And it still needed some work done to it. So about 5 out of the 12 units have been renovated. So there was room for value add, and there was room to raise the rents. But a problem that we're seeing in the multifamily space is people are basing the value of their property off of future rents, not what it's actually getting right now.
Yep.
Whereas prior to the pandemic, that's how you valued multifamily and other types of properties. What is it making now? And then what can I potentially make off of it as the buyer? But as the seller, it's like, hey, I need to understand what it's making now and then kind of base my value off of that. Because the business is the value of what it makes now. So we looked at those numbers. I presented it to a client who was in California. He was like, yeah, I love it. Like, I want to make an offer on it, all cash offer, but I can only do this much. And it was somewhere about $1.5 million. Yep. And he was adamant about that number because he ran his own independent analysis, and he's saying, I can only feel comfortable offering this number. It's like, okay, cool. We'll try for it. And the unique thing about this property was the seller wanted to do a 1031 exchange where he would sell the property, take the profits, and then roll that into a new, bigger property, and he can defer taxes till later down the line.
Yep.
So we kind of wanted to hone in on that. Like, hey, you need to sell this property and do 1031 exchange. We're offering you a quick way to do that with a cash offer, and they were not having it. So at the end of the day, they were just like, nope, we're not even going to entertain your offer, really, and we're actually going to put it on auction and see, and then the rest, we'll see what happens from there. So that was kind of a crappier one where it's like, we thought we had the pieces ready to go and everything kind of good, and there was still negotiation. At the end of the day, they still didn't want to move on that, or didn't think it would meet their intent. So we lost out on that deal. So that was one that failed. On the other success story, as you've kind of talked about a little bit of social media, was being able to help you out with your property, and the process of going through that, where we found each other maybe like 6-7 months ago, and we built the relationship, we started talking, and then you started wanting to dive into like, hey, what are market rents for long-term rentals, and providing that information, and then understanding the area and what's going to work best. But we went through a whole gamut of, okay, here are the numbers, that's great, but what's our exit strategy? And then always trying to stay focused on, okay, what does the property look like after you move out? Because that was one thing that you did well. You identified from the beginning. It's like, hey, my plan is to house hack, but eventually I want to be able to move out and then turn it into a rental that I can make money in. Okay, well, with these prices and these current interest rates and everything, your property is not going to be able to cash flow as well as a long-term rental.
Yes.
So how do we get around that, or what do we think would work? And that's where we took a little bit more of a creative / different look at alternative strategies with Can we make it into an Airbnb? Well, the property that you ended up settling on, they had lease restrictions, and those are defined in the covenants, conditions, and restrictions. So always look
Yep.
out for that kind of stuff. And so once we looked at that, we realized, well, maybe it doesn't work as a short-term rental. It could work as a long-term rental, but there's a new niche that's kind of coming up and about, and a lot of people don't know about and that's midterm rentals. And what you do with that is you're focused on more traveling professionals or people who need to stay for a little bit longer period of time, but you still furnish the property and provide them a place, but they're maybe staying for like 30 days to maybe 4 months or somewhere around that time frame, depending on if the job's got to keep them in a certain area or they've been displaced for a little bit and they need to be in a certain house. So that's the kind of strategy that we looked at with this property. And then we were able to see, okay, here's what those types of properties get in this area. What else does the area have to offer? Does it provide amenities? Is it in a great location? Do people want to be there? And so once we factor it in, all that kind of stuff, we ended up finding the property that you live at now. And then the numbers shape out to once you're able to move out and take that strategy, you should be making about $500 to $800 a month in cash flow.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah. I think that's something that I didn't really think of before. It was midterm renting too. And when you brought it up to me, I was like, wait a minute. Like, I'm not a huge fan of short term because of all the legalities behind it and how cities and towns are kind of cracking down on them. They're amazing opportunities to make a ton of money though, if you find a place in an area that you can purchase one and do short term. But it's also a little bit against my portfolio because I don't want to do as much work, and short terms do have a little bit more active work unless you get a property management involved. And then long term, obviously here, with the interest rates and the housing price boom, right now in this market, it just doesn't make sense for like a long-term plan unless it's like a bigger multifamily like the 12plex you were speaking about earlier. If it's just like a single family or like a smaller multifamily, it might not work as well. But midterm, like you touched on, is kind of like a mix between short-term rentals and long-term rentals. So you have a furnished unit that is just all furnished, ready to go. You cover utilities for people that move in, and you look for professionals like travel nurses or professional businessmen that have to just go on contract for a few months, like consultants or so. And they come in and they'll pay, say, let's just use this place. So the long-term rental here is probably $2,100 a month or $2,200 a month.
More like 1750.
Yeah, like 1750. I don't even know. It's pretty hard. Whatever it is, it's not great. And then midterm can go as much as like 2,800. So right there, that big difference, by just having a professional come in that's on different like 3 to 9 month contracts, really boost your cash flow you could possibly get. Plus, it makes it easier to keep renting it out because you know their contract. So you know that they're going to be there for 4 months. So the second that they move in, you can start broadcasting and advertising for when they're about to leave because you know it's coming.
Okay.
And then it just keeps it's a lot less work compared to like a short-term rental, and then you make more money. So it's definitely a niche I think it's going to start to become a lot more popular once people start realizing that. And there's a ton of like websites that you can use like Furnish Finder and stuff that give you all the stats on it, which was great when I started looking it up. So that's awesome. I mean, it just goes to show, like, as an investment realtor yourself, Evans just he takes the opportunity to look at a deal. And these are the good investment realtors that you want to use. Is you look at a deal, but you don't look at it from just one angle. So he looked at it from like 4 different angles and kind of explained it to me. And as an investor myself, I wasn't even thinking of some of these angles. And thankfully, he showed me like the midterm side, and I was like, wait a minute, I might start hopping onto that niche a little bit.
You ended up with a sweet property that suits it very well, I believe.
Yeah, and it's exciting and it's awesome. All right, so to hop back into some more riveting questions I have for you. So you're a realtor now, you just started. Quickly, can you just go over, I know you've been a realtor just for 2022 basically, but someone wants to become a realtor in this market right now. From you hopping in, already going through like a year within that journey, what would you give us some tips for them to get into it? What kind of mindset should they have? What are some opening ideas and plans that they should plan for to kind of jumpstart their career within real estate as a realtor? And what should they focus on to be the best realtor that they can be that some other realtors might be missing out on, especially ones that started in COVID just to list some properties and they don't do anything correctly because it was so easy? What are some things that, you know, you would tell a realtor that's starting to mentor them a little bit?
All right, so that was like 4 questions right then and there. So if I don't answer all of them, just
I'm gonna yell at you. Sorry, I ran with there a little bit, but basically, well, yeah,
We'll
you're
start
mentoring a
with the
realtor.
beginning with tips.
You're mentoring a realtor, so just tell them how to start.
So of course we're heading into some challenging times. So some of the things that I think that are going to be good is kind of focusing on your craft and trying to learn how to be the best realtor. Because yeah, we just came out of a time where it's like, all right, you find a property, and if you like it, like all you had to do was, hey, this is the best offer we can throw up, see if it works and see if it sticks, and then go, boom, move from there. No contingency or no inspection, whatever, go. So now it's kind of a time to take that back to basics and understand what you're really doing and understand the numbers a little bit more. But working on your confidence and stuff. So even though I've started out this year, I've been doing this for many years, and I was able to take that confidence and expertise and take it moving forward into my real estate career. So if you don't have that, then how do you develop the confidence? Well, it's getting out there and networking with people who are doing this, whether that's networking with other realtors, lenders, or even going to investment meetups or different kind of things, to where you're surrounding yourself with people who do this day in and day out, or very passionate about that stuff. And that will kind of start changing your mindset and building your confidence, because now you're able to talk to them, learn, listen, and take that back to people who you could potentially help. It's like, hey, here are things that are happening and things I've learned recently. And so even though you might be new to it, it's what information can you take and digest and apply and help apply to other people to be able to provide value. It's going to be very big. And then the other thing that kind of people might have forgotten about in the most recent times, starting to put others' needs before yours. Like there are many times, especially where it's like, I want to do these things for myself, but I also realize like the idea of being able to help someone get it started on their journey and give them that opportunity and help them realize like, hey, here's an opportunity, that's putting others' needs before yourself. And that's kind of one of the duties we have as realtors. So don't forget that. And then the last part of that is kind of like being able to solve problems. As we said, things were a certain way for the past few years, and we get it. But now it's going to be more about your ability to solve problems and figure out solutions. And if you can do that, and it's just like, hey, there's a contract, there's these processes, okay, but how do you kind of like dive deeper into that and maybe ask more questions to uncover some stuff that you can now provide a solution to someone who didn't see it. As you just mentioned a few minutes ago, it was you bought your eightplex and long-term rentals and stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, after further exploration into that, hey, do you know that this is a solution that you can use, implement? It's different. You're not used to it, or it's newer, but this is something that you can do to increase your cash flow. And then you took that and you run with it. So being able to listen and talk to people and then have that kind of mentality of like, I need to be in the mindset of helping people find solutions and figuring out problems versus I need to sell a property or buy or list a property and get it sold and get it done. That is going to be some kind of critical points that I think taking that forward into the future will help you become the best you can be, or be better at your craft.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think everything you said there was just perfect. And there's one more thing I want to ask you about becoming a realtor, because I haven't obviously become a realtor. When you were picking out your brokerage, what was that process? And what do you look for in brokerages? And does your brokerage help you a lot, and helped you get started, or kind of just dive into that a little bit? Because I know that's a big part of becoming a realtor, is finding a good place to hang your license and
Mhm.
get good support off the beginning.
Right. Yeah, I think the opportunity kind of came uniquely to me, to where I found out we were going to be moving to Charlotte, and then the realtor I was working with, uh, at the time, she said like, "Hey, you can come join my team," and I was like, "What? Like seriously? Like this is awesome." And so kind of took with that and run with it. But I was doing a program for the military called Skill Bridge, and it allowed me to go be an intern and I chose to do it for a brokerage. So I already got like my real estate license, but then I got to kind of intern for them as well, and pick up some skills and be involved with the leadership there, and just I got to focus on my sales and becoming a better sales professional, but then also learn the business side of the aspect and learn that. So that was great support having that. And there's a lot of resources out there, Facebook groups and things that you can join and ask people around, get feedback. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to what kind of support can you get, and do you feel comfortable engaging with the people that you're working with? Like, are they willing to help you, or are they just putting themselves in front of you? So understanding that kind of stuff it's gonna be a learning process. It might not
Yep.
always work out the first time, but if you can kind of have that mindset, like, hey, I realize that not everyone is out there to have your best interest, but are they still like, sometimes finding those people who are still willing to support you regardless, or help you become a better version of you, is a good thing to have.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, if you walk around life thinking that everybody is out to get you and not doesn't want to help you, that's just not a good way to grow. Because the thing about humanity, and especially in like a specific niche like real estate, being a realtor, being even a loan officer myself, being an investor, people in your shoes before, like when you started. So if you ask them questions, like they're gonna want to help you out because they were there and they want to help you out. It's just human nature. Usually, there are some people that I guess won't, but it doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah.
Keep on asking until that person says, "You know what? I'm just not going to help you because I'm just not a good human." And you're like, "Okay, guess I won't ever ask you again." But but people are there to help, and real estate is a huge team sport because there's so many pieces that come into play with everything. Comes into play with deals, comes into play with financing, with finding properties. You all work together as a team. There's legal stuff like attorneys and stuff. So there's so much aspects within real estate, which as a person starting off in it, you might be a little scared because you're like, oh my god, there's so many pieces, and these are huge like transactions we're dealing with. Like it's a little scary, but once you get past all that and just learn a little bit and have a good team that you can ask questions and figure out a whole lot from,
Mhm.
you'll just get better. And the more you learn, the more you experience, you get more comfortable, and then you can just dive right in. Um,
And add on to that, then one of the biggest lessons learned I've kind of got, and especially as we go into this challenging time, is you'll learn that motivation is not going to be enough. So
oh yeah,
I just recently like listened to David Goggins' "Can't Hurt Me" audiobook, and he kind of
oh, yeah,
dives into it there. I don't know if you've read that or
yeah. He's
listened to it.
great. I got to
Yeah.
read his new book. His new book just came out. Got to get
Oh,
that.
yeah. I think I saw it and I haven't messed with it. I just finished the other one, but in there he kind of talks about like, hey, if you're motivated, then as soon as something doesn't go your way, then you're going to lose that motivation, and it's going to take a while, or it might take a little bit to get that back and then get after what you're trying to achieve.
Mhm.
And so you kind of got to be obsessed with what you want to do, and that is where you like transcend into a different plane, and you're consistent and you're working towards your goals. So as a realtor, especially, like, when there's not too much oversight, it's on you to kind of run your business. I will 100% say motivation is sometimes just not going to be enough, because everyone's human, but at the end of the day, when no one's holding you accountable but you, and then you're sitting there and you're realizing like, hey, I could be doing this or this, but I'm just going to go ahead and chill out, because business will come to me, or this and that. Like that's not going to help you. And that's that motivation part, because you were motivated to go get your license and do these things.
Mhm.
Now your mind is starting to take over and kind of like stall you, or hold you back from your potential. So if you are more than motivated, then you'll want to stay consistent and like take action every day towards helping others and helping yourself achieve what you're trying to do.
Yeah. I think, well, David Goggins is unbelievable.
He's out there.
If you ever read his books, everybody should read it. You're gonna come out of reading that book being like, oh my God, I'm not even a tenth of that man, because he's he's ridiculous. Hello too. Like I'm not telling people to do what he does, but he gives great lessons, like
Yeah, it's
regarding.
not for everyone, but definitely
Yeah.
there's tangible things in there you can take from it and try to implement into your life to be good. Like you don't need to go run 100 milers or anything, but
On broken legs.
on broken legs, but you can, take those things into your business and be like, okay, here's where I need to focus, and I need to be relentless about this and do it day in and day out and get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, consistency, discipline, and I mean motivation too. Even all those three combined gets you going. Just motivation, that'll get you out of bed in the morning. But then if you run into something and you're not like consistent, you're not resilient, you'll just stop, because that motivation can only keep you going for so long. You got to be like you said, you got to be obsessed with like the journey. You got to be obsessed with the solving of the problems. When something gets in the way, you got to be like, oh yeah, look at this. Like, this is a lesson, and I'm gonna learn from it, and I'm gonna dominate this. And next time it comes up, it'll be nothing. You gotta Everything in life throws at you. You gotta treat it like a game, like a video game. It's just like a level. You gotta beat that level, get to the next level,
Right.
get to the next level.
The worst
But
case is if you don't have it or you can't figure it out, then you can say, hey, let me talk to someone who's doing this,
mhm,
try to reach out and get that help and support.
exactly, yeah. So speaking of books, because you said that you read David Goggins' book, are there any other like favorite books that you can recommend that you've read recently, other than Rich Dad Poor Dad? Because you said that in the beginning, and then David Goggins can't hurt me. It's great. Are there any ones that popped to your mind, or podcasts that you've been listening to that you would recommend to the audience to look into?
Yeah. So so in terms of podcasts, I stay listening to Bigger Pockets. So kind of a little bit of backtrack is I've kind of changed my mindset of how I maximize time and to bettering myself and trying to help even take that information and help better others. And I'm not saying this is for everyone, but just something as simple as, instead of listening to music on your commute to somewhere, I now listen to a podcast or an audiobook. I hate reading. So to get past that, I had to download Audible and start listening to audiobooks along the way. Whether it's going to showings or just going into town or whatever, or even heading to the gym in the morning and popping in and listening to a podcast there. So I really like Bigger Pockets podcasts, because you'll get a gamut of information. And they came out and branched off with a sub brand. It's called On the Market. And so that kind of gives a lot of data meat to it. And a lot of investors that I work with and help with, they're very focused on the data and the numbers and understanding macro factors and micro. And so that kind of helps inform me a lot of what's happening on a macro level / you can dive down into deeper levels, and then being able to talk to other people about that information as well. With respects to books that I've read from a realtor side, actually, these both are going to apply. Ninja Selling was a phenomenal book. I had to listen to it twice because there was so much value in that book, where it's talking just the things I said, where it's like, hey, you're no longer focused. If you want to be a great realtor or a great real estate agent, you can't be focused on just selling a property and doing a transaction. There's so much more to that. And then it breaks that information down, like from learning about your clients and asking very thought-provoking and diving really down into like what motivates them, or what drives them, their big why, and figuring that out and being able to kind of latch onto that and use that to help them find a solution. That was a phenomenal book, and kind of just giving you a different perspective of, it's not transaction based, it's about finding solutions and being and building relationships. So phenomenal book. And that was by Larry Kendall. And then the other side of that then, and we kind of experienced this with your properties.
Mhm.
I enjoy like a more psychological approach to real estate
Yep.
and trying to put myself in the buyer's mind, the seller's mind, and using that to your advantage. And so Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss
Mm.
was another fantastic book where he was like the top FBI hostage negotiator. And so he wrote the book about negotiating. And you can take a lot of those concepts and apply it to real estate, whether you are a real estate agent or even just a buyer and seller. And when you can like start putting yourself in the mindset of others and then work with that to whether it's eventually get what you want or kind of just see where there's a neutral ground to be made versus leaving it to be just emotion. Like it's only matter at the end of the day, it only matters what I want and stuff.
Mhm.
We can try to negotiate better and sharpen those skills by listening to that book. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, even in day-to-day life, when you're talking to somebody and maybe you're having like a conversation with them or like not dispute, but like a discussion with them where we guys disagreeing on stuff. It's really fun to always like think about what they're thinking about, like why they're thinking about it, like wear their shoes for a second. And then when you do that and then you can figure out like how to compromise, it's really cool. And those are really good negotiations, like tactics, especially in sales and any type of sales.
Mhm.
And like when I'm trying to sell a loan, like get someone to come over to my business or lending, for you when you're trying to negotiate with sellers, or buyers, you have to really think about them and their shoes. You can't just think about what you want, because a negotiation is two parties trying to come to an agreement. It's not one party coming to what they agree on and
Mhm.
saying, get away, and sometimes you got to push a little bit. Sometimes you got to let go a little bit to get the deal that you want. And if you're just emotion, you're going to lose out on a lot of possible deals, because if you're getting so uptight about like $1,000 on a $600,000 property, then maybe you shouldn't be investing in real estate, because you're missing the boat. You can make that money back in appreciation in 1 month. Like, who
They
cares?
took the Never Split the Difference a little too literal. And so it's like,
Yeah, like never split that.
never, do not compromise, not even 1 cent. And so it's more of the title is a little bit misleading, but there's a psychological piece to that where it's like, hey, you're getting what you want by still being able to let people into the mentality or belief that they are also getting what they want,
Yep.
what they want as well.
Exactly. Yep. Never, like, you're winning, but you don't let them know that you're winning. You make them seem like they're winning
Mhm.
in a way, but you both kind of win at the end.
Yeah.
It's cool. I don't know, but awesome. Yeah, those books. I should look into that book. I never read the Split the Difference book, so I should definitely look into that, because I love that type of thinking and psychological kind of reading.
Mhm.
So is there, before we bring this to a close, is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience, just like your social media handles, more about your brokerage, any like meetups in the area that your brokerage or yourself go to or host, any charity events and stuff that you want to put out there, just whatever you want to put out, you have the floor.
Yeah, so like if you need any type of real estate assistance, I'm with Nicole Malera Realty with North Group Real Estate, fantastic company. And so I attend a lot of meetups. There's some good real estate meetups out there that I don't personally host, but I enjoy going to and trying to be a part of. I believe there's like RIAs, and then another one, Pints and Properties. Those are great ones to go to in the Charlotte area. Because they always find ways to provide value to people. In terms of me, once again, I'm with Nicole Malera Realty with North Group Real Estate. And if you want to like follow me on Instagram, my handle is evans.r.wright. I'm also on Facebook, Evans Wright. You can find me on there as well. In terms of last parting kind of advice, I think one thing is kind of neat is there's systems are out there to kind of focus and help maintain status quo, but never stop and try to maintain status. Always be looking for ways to improve yourself, and that's personally or professionally. And that's that's big things I got right there. What else you got? If I answered the questions.
That was good. That was good. Yeah, I mean, you can't be successful without first successfully improving yourself. You build success off of a base, and that base is yourself. So you want to build yourself, make yourself the best person that you can be, and then you can be the most successful you can be. But if you try to just be successful without doing that, it's going to collapse because you don't have a strong base. So that's
to improve yourself.
yeah, just keep on improving. Always trying to find the next step.
Yep,
But awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Evans, for coming on. You gave a ton of information. We could have dove a lot deeper in, but I don't want to keep you here too long.
Yeah, we'll be here a long time.
Yeah, we'd be here for a long time. Maybe we'll get some beers and we can do a podcast in person and just really dive deep. And then people be like, these guys are going a little bit too deep. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And yeah, we'll talk again soon.
All right, thank you so much, man. It's good seeing you.